Okay, here we are back at with the Cushman carburetor, and doing one more weird thing that I didn't expect to do. If you put a state edge across this flange where the carburetor attaches to the intake manifold, you'll find off, at least in this case, and I was alerted to it from a book, that the flange isn't going to be square. So there's about 20 thousandths. You can take a feeler gauge and slip it through the middle here, where the ends of the flange are farther out than this part, and you can slip the thickness of the intake gasket through there. So what's got to be done is you've got to take a flat file and file this flange down until it's square. So you can see I've plugged up all the orifices with tape or paper or whatever I had to do in order to be able to file this. There's lots of ways to do this. I think if you had a piece of glass and a piece of emery cloth, that would probably be the best way. I'm just going to go at it with the flat file here. You can see I've done it a little, and you can see the high points are showing up as bright spots here as the file takes off the metal for the high edges. So you can see where it's been all corroded here. These are the low spots of the flange here, and the metal's all corroded. And I think that might have been part of why I had the hard starting problems. There may well have been an air leak there. And so I'm going to give this a try and see if I can get this a little squarer than it is. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be good enough that the gasket can make up the difference. I wish I'm using this book here, hobbytech.com, Jim Frederick's book, and he's got a little section in there on carburetors, and he mentions this problem about the carburetor, and I decided to check it, and lo and behold, I did have a problem. Of course, I didn't figure this out until I was all done cleaning the carburetor and replacing everything that I was going to replace. And so here I am at the end, trying to keep particles and crap out of the I don't know if you can see this or not, but yeah, now you can see all those reflective edges are all more or less the same height. So it's not taking too much work to do this, even with this little rat tail file. I wish I had a bigger file, but I don't seem to have one right here. But this will certainly be a big improvement. When I get done, I shouldn't be able to slip that new gasket in there. So you can see all those bright spots that I'm getting pretty close to having an even surface there, and so I should be able to get a good seal on the intake manifold once this is all bright all the way along. Then I should get a reasonably flat surface. It's sure going to be a lot better than it was. It was all eroded in here. Let's see, trying to look in the viewfinder, and there we go. So these parts here were all very dull and pitted and eroded, and of course those were the low spots. So when we get a good flat gasket mating surface here, we'll quit. It doesn't have to be. It's not a Lamborghini, but it does have to give me a continuous sealing surface all the way around here. Boy, I sure didn't. I would have done this before I and then taken the carburetor apart and cleaned it, and not now, but anyway, I think we'll be alright. Getting pretty close here. Still some low spots here and here. But boy, I was very disappointed with this stuff that came from Dennis Carpenter. The float they sent me is obviously damaged. It's been bent and squashed on both sides. Something got stuck in there with something heavy, and the float seat and just was too tall. It would not go in all the way and seal against the surface there. The gasket didn't even touch the metal. And, you know, when you're screwing something in and it's starting to squeak and you got the lean on it, you know, it's time to stop. So that's going to have to go back. There's something wrong there, and so I had to put the old seat and the old float needle back in there. But I took I had some, I guess it must be 600 or 800 grit, 400 grit waterproof paper, emery cloth, very fine. And I used that to brighten up the seat and polish the needle. And I can't imagine there's anything wrong with them. They're just mating surfaces are very nice and shiny, no scoring. And I tried to measure did measure the float level, which is rather difficult to do. And I got within 20 thousandths of it was within 20 thousandths of the value that he specs in that book. And there's that much variation in the thickness of the gaskets. So, you know, I'm going to call that good until I find out otherwise. And, you know, if it doesn't leak and it works, I'll be okay. So the more I look at this, the more I think one of our biggest problems was likely an intake leak here between the body of the carburetor and the intake manifold. So that may be part of our hard starting. And when we check the point gap and confirm that that's correct, and figure out how to check the static timing. Once I figure that out, I'm going to make a mark. I think we'll probably be okay.